What's going on, everyone? Jack here from Half Chrome, and today I want to answer the question that I get all the time. What's the best drone? And that's not really an easy question to answer because you have to think about a couple of things. One, what is your purpose for flying? Are you trying to get really good pictures and video? Do you just want to have fun? Are you looking for something fast and furious? Those questions matter. And the other question that's really important is, what is your budget? Do you have unlimited amounts of cash? If so, good for you. Skip to the end of the video, that's where those drones are, but not everyone does. So I'm going to talk about drones starting at $100 and kind of move up in $100 to $200 increments so you can see what is the best drone in your price range. I'm also going to assume that you want something to take good pictures and video. So the drones on this list are camera drones, photography drones, videography drones. So if that's something you're looking to do, this is the video for you. Now, if you're into just flying fun and maybe FPV might be your thing, that's a different video. So what's the best drone for you? Stay tuned and we'll find out. All right, so for every one of these drones, I'm going to tell you how much it costs, what the range is, what the flight time is, what the camera is like, and some of the flight modes or things that make these drones special. Now, when I talk about flight time, just kind of note that flight time, these are flight times under perfect conditions at a very constant, smooth speed. Now, nobody really does that, so you can expect 10 to 20% less in terms of real-world flight time experiences. And this is kind of what I've experienced in flying all these drones. In terms of range, now the range is something that's really kind of going to be different depending on where you fly. If you're flying in an open area at a high altitude, you'll get pretty close to the full range, but in most situations, the range also is going to be decreased, especially if you're flying in heavy traffic areas with Wi-Fi or obstacles. You could get sometimes even just half the range that the manufacturers suggest. You also want to keep in mind, you do need to be able to see the drone at all times. So, does it matter that this thing can really fly 9 miles away? Who's seeing that thing 9 miles out? If you do, man, you got good eyes. Okay, so just kind of keep in mind the prices, they could change over time, but if you're looking for one of these drones, I've got links to the current prices down below in the video description. They're affiliate links to help support this channel. So if this video helped you out and you want one of these drones, use one of those links. All right, so the first drone on the list is this guy. This is the Rise Tello, and it's about $100, a little bit less, and it's a fantastic little drone, and this is almost always where I tell people to start. It's inexpensive, and it does a lot. This little guy has a range of about 100 meters, so it's not flying far away, and a flight time of about 13 minutes. It does have a 5 megapixel HD camera, and it is stabilized electronically, so if the drone moves up and down, it'll stabilize the footage so it's not super shaky. Now, I really like this drone for a beginner. It's easy to fly, it's super stable, it has some sensors on the bottom that really kind of lock it in place. It's almost as stable as a GPS drone. This is also a really good educational tool. You can learn how to program in code with this. In fact, I teach a high school class, and I've got a classroom set of these where the kids are learning how to program on the Tellos here. Tello's a great beginner drone and even has a few automated flight modes so you can do dronies and rockets and orbits and things like that. So for $100, this is a really good place to start. Now, it does have some limitations. I already mentioned the 100 meter range. It also has brushed motors. Now, brushed motors aren't nearly as efficient or as powerful, but they're inexpensive, and that's what helps keep this guy under $100. The second drone I'm going to talk about here is the MJX Bug 16 Pro, and it's about $200. Sometimes it's sold as the Flyhall FX1, and I've actually seen it under a few other names. But what makes this drone special is it's got brushless motors, so it's a little bit more powerful. It's a GPS-based drone, so it has some of those flight modes that you're looking for. This drone has a 20-minute flight time and a 600-meter range. Now, this camera is on a full 3-axis gimbal, and it is a 4K camera. Now, it's not super high-quality 4K footage, but it is pretty darn good. We've got some sensors on the bottom that help keep this thing stable. And the Bug 16 does have a handful of intelligent flight modes. We've got the orbit, we've got the follow me, we've got the return to home. So that's really nice. Now, if you want to get into photography, this is a really good beginner step. Now, the quality coming out of this camera isn't going to quite be what you want if you're trying to do professional shoots and things, but it's close, it's getting there. You're gonna have to spend another $100 if you want that quality. Now, if you can stretch your budget to $300, that's where the drone cameras really start getting good, and the DJI Mini SE is hands down the absolute best drone you can get for $300. I think this drone might actually be the best bang for your buck. It's a really good drone. The Mini SE has a flight time of about 30 minutes and a range of 4,000 meters. That's like 2.5 miles. The camera on this thing is a 2.7K camera, so you're not getting 4K quality, but you can do better than 1080p with this drone. Now, there is no obstacle avoidance on this drone, so kind of keep that in mind, but it does have return to home and a handful of quick shots, so you can do rockets and drones and things like that with the DJI Mini SE. It's a really good drone, but if you want to take it up just a notch, that's where the Mini 2 comes in. Now, the Mini 2 and the Mini SE are almost identical drones. There are two real differences. One, the camera on the Mini 2 can shoot 4K video. So instead of just 2.7K, now we've bumped it up to 4K. And the range on this, the transmission system from the drone to your remote, is much better. The Mini 2 has a range of 10,000 meters. Now that's like 6.2 miles. That's legit. The Mini 2 is really nice and definitely a step above the Mini SE, but it's going to cost you $450, so you're going to spend an extra $150 for the better camera and the better transmission system. Otherwise, the drones are pretty much identical. Now, in the $600 to $700 range, I really like the DJI Mavic Air 2. Now, it's hard to find the Mavic Air 2 because it's been replaced by the Mavic Air 2S, but the Mavic Air 2 is a really solid drone, and you can often find them on Amazon refurbished for about $650. The Mavic Air 2 has a 10,000 meter range, that's 6.2 miles, plus a flight time of up to 34 minutes. That's pretty legit. The camera on the Mavic Air 2 is really nice. I love the baked-in HDR, the 48 megapixel photos, and you get quick shots, but they also add obstacle avoidance front and rear to the Mavic Air 2, so you get active track and the follow me modes with that one as well. But the Mavic Air 2 isn't a new drone, and it's not always super easy to find, and DJI actually replaced it, I think, with the Mini 3 Pro, and this is a pretty legit little drone. Now, the Mini 3 here is a sub 250 gram drone, as is the Mini SE and the Mini 2. And that's important because if your drone is less than 250 grams, or basically like half a pound, you don't have to register it with the FAA in the United States. It saves you $5. And there are other rules and regulations in other countries that kind of pertain to drones that weigh less than 250 grams. So that's kind of like the magic number that's really kind of important for a handful of people. Now, that said, this drone, doesn't matter what it weighs, this Mini 3 is pretty darn spectacular. It is absolutely an upgrade over the Mini 2. Now, it's going to cost you about $750 at the minimum, but it's added obstacle avoidance. But you have front and rear obstacle avoidance on this drone. It also has a bigger camera sensor. So you get a 1/1.3 inch sensor. That's roughly 3/4 of an inch. So it's a lot bigger than the 1/2 inch sensor that you get on the Mavic Air 2 or either of the other mini drones from DJI. The Mini 3 range is also improved up to 12,000 meters. That's like 7.5 miles. And we have a flight time of 34 minutes. That's with the standard battery. You can also buy an extended battery and get flight times of up to 47 minutes. That's pretty darn impressive. Now, that battery is a little bit heavy, so it puts it over the 250 gram mark, but there's always a little bit of give and take. I've already mentioned the larger sensor on the camera. It also has a nice wide aperture of 1.7, so that's also going to let a little bit more light in, better for nighttime shooting than some of those other drones I've already talked about. So now, because we have the obstacle avoidance, DJI did add the active track or the follow me modes. You have the quick shots and you even have the master shots with this, which is a really nice way to kind of take a bunch of really spectacular pictures and videos really easily and then kind of stitch them together for you. I really do like the master shots on these drones. And while I do really like the Mini 3, I think if you're going to spend $750, you do have to consider the DJI Air 2S. This is probably the first drone, I think, if you're a professional, this is probably the first drone that I would start with. I really like the camera on this. It has a full 1-inch sensor, which means it's going to do even better than the Mini 3 in low light situations, and really all situations. It's a larger, heavier drone, so it's going to do a little bit better in the wind than any of those smaller mini drones. It does have obstacle avoidance, but it actually has a few extra sensors. So we have 2 in the front, 2 on the top, 2 in the back, and 2 on the bottom. So it's going to do a little bit better. It's not full obstacle avoidance, but it will do better than the Mini 3 in terms of sensing obstacles. Now, you don't want to rely on obstacle avoidance, but it is a nice thing to have. Now, the Air 2S has a range of 12,000 meters. That's like 7.5 miles, and a flight time of 31 minutes. So it's also pretty solid. Now, the camera here, I already talked about the larger sensor, but it also will shoot up to 5.4K video. So that's pretty darn nice. So, you can even do cropping and post-processing if you're shooting at that high resolution and not lose a lot of that detail. I really do like this drone for professional use as well as hobby use. Now, it's $1,000, so it isn't cheap, but I think it does add a lot of value for that price over the Mini 3. Now, you do have all the active shots, the follow me modes, but it also adds ADS-B. ADS-B is a safety feature, so if there are airplanes in the area, it'll let you know you can get your drone out of the way. Definitely a nice bonus. Now, I know a lot of the drones I mentioned were DJI, and DJI makes a really good product, but one of the things that people don't like about DJI drones is that they all have geofencing. So DJI basically locks down their drones if you're flying near airports. Even if you get link authorization, you still have to go through DJI to get the drone to be able to fly. And for some people, that's a deal breaker. So if that's you and you need a professional tool, then I think Autel is the company to look at. This is the Autel Evo 2 Pro, and I think this is their best drone in terms of photography and videography. The Lite Plus also has a 1-inch sensor similar to this drone, but I think overall, this is their best machine. It has the full obstacle avoidance. I mean, there are cameras galore on this thing. We got 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 on the back, 2 on the front. We've got 2 on the bottom. It's just a really solid drone. There are actually 2 versions of the Evo 2 Pro. There's the Pro or the 6K, and then there's the 8K. The 6K is the one you want. It has the better camera with the larger 1-inch sensor. Now, you get a flight time of up to 40 minutes with the Evo 2 Pro and a range of about 9,000 meters. That's like 5.5 miles. It has all the fancy flight modes you're looking for, the follow me's, the quick shots, but it also adds waypoints. That's something else that DJI drones just generally don't have, where you can kind of set up a mission and have this thing fly autonomously. But the Evo 2 Pro here isn't cheap. It's going to start at like $1,700, go up to about $25. Now, they're kind of hard to find, so if you can't find this, then kind of the next alternative is the Evo Lite Plus, right? That's the one with the better camera, and that's about $1,700 or so. Now, the last drone I want to talk about is this behemoth. This is the Mavic 3 Pro, and this is a really nice drone, but it's going to cost you a few dollars. It's a little bit over $2,000 to start, and that's for the basic package. But it has a really, really nice camera. In fact, it actually has 2 cameras. We've got a Hasselblad 1-inch sensor here on the bottom. That's going to shoot up to 5.1K video. And we've got a small 1/2-inch telephoto lens, right, that'll really help you zoom in. You can zoom in up to 28 times with this telephoto lens. That's pretty legit. Now, this bird has a flight time of up to 46 minutes and a range of 15,000 meters. That's like 9.3 miles. That is out there. It's a solid drone. If you're a pro or a semi-pro, this is the drone you want. It does have full obstacle avoidance sensors. You can see 2 on the top, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, and then 2 on the bottom. So it's going to give you the active track, the follow me, the quick shots, the master shots, all those automated flight modes that you're looking for. Now, it doesn't have waypoints. That is something that DJI's kind of gotten away from. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot more content coming your way. And if you kind of noticed a lot of these drones were DJI focused, that's because they make good products. But I also have a video coming out on drones that aren't made by DJI. So if you're looking for something that isn't DJI and it's not one of the couple that I mentioned here, I've got a whole video on that coming up. Don't forget, if you want one of these products, we got links down below to help support this channel. And if you want a full review on these, I've done full reviews on all of these drones. You can check them out in the descriptions down below. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck and happy flying.